Why do some homes sell in days while others sit on the market for months? Well, what a realtor friend of mine shared recently revealed a powerful lesson about why some photographers are easy for clients to say yes to. Hey there, Lens Legends, and welcome to another episode of the Portrait Profit Show, where we focus on the business side of photography. I'm your host, Jim Landers, your guide on the business side. The Portrait Profit Show is brought to you by Digital Pro Lab and Landers Photography School. For Digital Pro Lab, Amanda and her amazing team are going to make you look like a hero. Now, that's just by default because Amanda hires fantastic people. They do a great job. They care about what they do. They are career people, and it's just by default that they make you look like a hero to your clients. So I recommend that you go to digitalprolab.com and see the difference the Digital Pro Lab can make if you haven't already. Now, if you haven't even printed your work, oh my gosh, you're missing out. Once you start printing your work, there's a whole nother level that opens up for you in your photography world, your photography passion. Go to digitalprolab.com and see the difference that they make. The show is also sponsored by Landers Photography School, my company. I teach both the photography side and the business side. And I want to gift you something. Go to that URL that's on the screen right there. So I'm going to give you a free private session with me, just you and me via Zoom, talking about your goals, your dreams, and how we can make those happen. Go to calendly.com /photo school /15MIN. Do a screenshot because I'm going to take it off the screen. So calendly.com /photo school /15MIN. That'll take you directly to my calendar so that you can schedule a free session with me. All right. I want to encourage you to make comments and ask questions throughout this lesson today. And I want you to go to the comments section right now and enter in hashtag live, so that I know you're watching us live here today on either Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn or YouTube. We're simulcast to several different places. For those watching the replay, please enter in hashtag replay. I also ask that you share the Portrait Profit Show. Let other people know that this show exists, because when we uplift the photography community, it lifts us all to a better place. Now, a realtor friend of mine sent an email to his list recently, and he was explaining something I thought was pretty interesting. He was talking about why some homes sell in just a few days while others sit on the market for months. Most people assume it's that the difference must be price or location. And sure, those things matter. But what he explained went deeper than that. This was a real estate conversation. But as I read this email message, I realized he was describing something every photographer needs to understand. He talked about presentation, momentum, and removing friction so buyers feel comfortable moving forward. What he was describing is exactly why some photographers are easy for clients to say yes to. Because people rarely start by wanting a photographer. They start by wanting what the photographer creates. When the interest is strong, the value is clear. And moving forward feels simple. Saying yes becomes the easiest decision in the world. In this lesson, we're going to discover how to make that decision easy for your ideal client. By the way, sometimes clients already know you before photography ever enters the conversation. They may know you through business groups, community organizations, or mutual friends. Uh, when that happens, trust already exists, a relationship already exists, and the decision in that instance can be very easy. But that's not the situation we're exploring today. Today, we're looking at the moments when someone discovers your work without already knowing you. So if you're looking for new clients, you're going to want to hear this. Chapter 1. A photographer can be talented, hardworking, and deeply committed to serving people, yet still struggle to attract clients consistently. Does this resonate with you? At the same time, another photographer in the same area may remain steadily booked without appearing to work nearly as hard at marketing or anything else. When photographers try to explain this difference, they often point to pricing. That guy doesn't charge anything, or advertising, or social media exposure. And while those factors can influence a business, they rarely explain the true reason that some photographers consistently attract attention while others remain largely unnoticed. The real difference often appears much earlier in the process than you think. Potential clients begin by wanting something a photographer creates. That desire may start when they see a family portrait on the wall in someone's home, when they notice a senior portrait that captured a young person's personality, or when they hear a friend describe how much they enjoyed their photography session. In each of these situations, the interest for a photographer forms before the search for a photographer ever begins. The desire for the result comes first, and the search for the person who can create that result, that's what follows. Understanding this sequence is important because many photographers attempt to market themselves before they create enough interest in the outcome they produce. I'm going to say that again, just in case you didn't catch it. Many photographers attempt to market themselves before they've created enough interest in the outcome they produce. I mean, you may hear them talking about equipment or their lighting techniques, the number of sessions they've photographed, the number of years they've been in business. These details are meaningful to you. They're actually meaningful to other photographers as well, but they rarely create desire in the mind of a potential client. Most people do not daydream about hiring a photographer. They daydream about their families, their children growing up, the moments they hope to remember later in life. Photography becomes meaningful when it connects to those feelings and helps people imagine preserving those moments. For that reason, presentation plays a powerful role in how interest develops. When people encounter your work, they should quickly understand the emotional result your photography creates. While you need technical skills, the images you create should communicate confidence in a professional portrait, joy in a shared moment, connection between family members, pride in a graduating senior. When that emotional result is clear and compelling, people begin to imagine the same outcome for themselves. And once that imagination begins, the path towards a conversation about working together becomes much easier. Interest, however, can be weakened just as easily as it's created. One of the most common ways photographers unintentionally weaken interest is by allowing distraction into their presentation. When a potential client begins exploring a gallery, they're quietly building a mental picture of what their own portrait might look like. If the gallery remains focused on the type of images that they expect to see when they went there, That picture in their mind becomes clearer with each photograph. Each image reinforces the same emotional result and strengthens that viewer's imagination. However, when unrelated images appear in your gallery, the viewer's attention drifts. A family portrait gallery that suddenly includes landscapes, sports photographs, flowers, that interrupts the emotional story that was forming in their mind. Those landscape photographs are probably amazing. I've heard many photographers say that they want to show that they are good at all types of photography, but they shift the viewer's thinking away from the result that they were beginning to imagine for themselves. That interruption introduced friction into the decision process. Photographers often include these additional images because they want to demonstrate versatility. In practice, the opposite effect is what occurs. Instead of seeing versatility, the viewer's mind drifts. That spark of interest that they had when they came to your website, your social media presence, it begins to fade. That's why I say a focused gallery removes this distraction by presenting only the kind of images the ideal client would realistically purchase. Each photograph reinforces the same message about the result the photographer consistently creates, allowing the viewer's imagination to remain uninterrupted. When that imagination continues to build from one image to the next in your potential client's mind, interest grows stronger. Once interest is strong enough, the photographer is no longer trying to convince someone to hire them. The client already understands the value of the result and is simply exploring how to make it happen. Interest begins the process. And when interest is clear and uninterrupted, everything that follows in a photography business becomes easier. And don't we want that? By the way, if you're getting something from this, will you do me a favor? Click that like button, click that love button. Let me know you're here. If you haven't already, enter in hashtag live, letting me know that you're watching the show live. Let's move on to, by the way, every single show has a handout. So if you want today's handout, send me an email at jim@portraitprofits.com. Let me know that you want today's handout. All right, chapter 2. That says 3. There's chapter 2. Chapter 2. Once interest exists, people naturally begin evaluating whether the photographer can deliver the result that they are hoping for, that mental image they have in their mind. That emotional spark that I mentioned in chapter 1 creates curiosity. But curiosity alone does not lead to a decision. So at this stage, the potential client already believes you are the right photographer. Or what's on their mind is this person the right person to create the result that I want? So this is where clarity becomes extremely important. Interest opens the door. Then clarity allows the client to keep walking through it. When a photographer's work, messaging, and reputation clearly communicate what the client can expect, the client begins to feel confident that they are moving in the right direction. On the other hand, when clarity is missing, hesitation appears, even if the interest was strong in the beginning. Many photographers unintentionally weaken this moment of clarity. They present strong images, but the messaging surrounding those images is confusing. A website may contain beautiful portraits, yet the language describing the service feels vague or unfocused, or sometimes it's non-existent. I've seen some websites that were fantastic, and I've seen some others. The photographer may photograph families, seniors, business portraits, events, weddings, and they may put all of them in a gallery on their website or on their social media. And while each of those may be services that the photographer offers, the result is that the viewer struggles to understand exactly what the photographer is known for, what they're looking for. When people are unsure about the result that they get, they slow down. Clarity removes that hesitation by helping potential clients quickly understand three things. First, they must be able to recognize the type of portraits the photographer consistently creates. Second, they should understand the experience that they will have during the photography session. And third, evidence that other clients have trusted the photographer and felt good about that decision. When these three elements are clear, their confidence grows. Consider what happens when a potential client sees a consistent body of work that repeatedly communicates the same emotional result. The viewer no longer has to guess. They have an idea of what their own portraits might look like. The answer is already visible. That clarity allows the client's imagination to move from curiosity towards expectation. So instead of wondering what might happen, they begin picturing the portraits they will soon have. Clarity in messaging strengthens that expectation even further. When photographers clearly explain what their client can expect during a photography session, the unknown becomes comfortable. The client understands how the session works, what the photographer will guide them through, and what the finished result will become. Each piece of information quietly removes uncertainty. Reputation plays a similar role. When people see that others have worked with the photographer and were pleased with the outcome, confidence continues to build. Testimonials, recommendations, stories that the clients have shared with their friends, these all reinforce the idea that choosing this photographer is a safe and satisfying decision. And of course, word of mouth is often the strongest form of clarity a photographer can receive. When someone hears a friend speak enthusiastically about a portrait displayed in their home or how much they enjoyed the photography session itself, any uncertainty that potential client may have had disappears quickly. The potential client is no longer looking to interpret a website or marketing message. Instead, they hear a trusted voice describe the result and the experience. That kind of clarity carries tremendous weight. Because the recommendation comes from someone the client already trusts. When clarity is strong, the hesitation fades. The client no longer feels like they're exploring something uncertain. Instead, they feel as though they are moving towards something they already understand. And that is when they come to you ready to go, or as I often say, already sold. They want to work with you. And in fact, they probably tell you from the beginning, I already know I want to work with you. This shift is subtle but powerful. Interest sparks curiosity, but clarity builds trust. And as trust grows, the decision feels natural. The client is no longer questioning the value. They are feeling confident about who they want to work with. The client is moving closer to a decision. But momentum can still be interrupted if the process becomes complicated. That's where the next principle becomes important. Maintaining momentum by removing friction from the path forward. Is this resonating with you? If so, Tell me. Click the love button, click the like button. And if you haven't already, enter in hashtag live into the comments. A bunch of you already have. Nice. I appreciate that. All right. Uh, Moving on to chapter 3. There's 4 chapters. Simplicity allows momentum to continue. Even when interest is strong and clarity has built confidence, a decision can still stall if the path feels complicated. At this stage, the potential client already believes the photographer can create the result they want. They are no longer wondering whether the portraits will be good. Instead, they're beginning to think about how to move forward and what the next step is supposed to be. Unfortunately, this is where many photographers unintentionally lose momentum. When people feel confident about a decision, they naturally act on it. If the process of moving forward feels simple and comfortable, they continue toward the result they already imagine. When the process feels confusing or uncertain, that confidence begins to weaken. The potential client pauses, thinking that, well, they'll come back to it later once they have more time to figure things out. Let me think about this. Let me think about this overnight. Let me talk to somebody else. A pause often means they're not coming back. Does it always mean that? It doesn't. But it means it a lot of times. Photographers aren't creating this hesitation intentionally. I know it. In many cases, the problem appears in small ways that feel, insignificant from our perspective, but become obstacles for the client. A potential client may arrive at a website filled with beautiful portraits, yet struggle to determine how to begin the process of working with that photographer. Maybe they're searching for contact information. Maybe they're wondering whether they should send a message or schedule a call. Or just they're hesitating because what happens next isn't clear. Even after a client reaches out to you, momentum can weaken if communication does not guide them forward. A delayed response, an answer that creates additional questions, or a message that feels uncertain often causes the client's enthusiasm to diminish. The interest and confidence that had been building during the earlier stages may fade. I've seen photographers misdiagnose this slowing of momentum as price resistance. Guys, just because you think that's someone's reason doesn't mean that that is someone's reason. People are different. They think different. That may be how you would react, or that may be how you think, but they aren't you. And so it kind of shows you're in your own head, that you don't have the ability to think from someone else's point of view if you're assuming what they're thinking. Photographers sometimes assume that clients hesitate because they're comparing different photographers or because they are unsure about cost. While those concerns may exist, hesitation frequently appears because the client does not feel guided through the process. They want the portraits. They trust the photographer's ability, but the path forward just didn't feel clear to them. Let's talk about the photographers who maintain strong momentum. That way you can have something to compare to. Many of the obstacles that slow momentum are surprisingly small. From the photographer's perspective, even if they've noticed those obstacles, they would seem harmless. But from the client's perspective, they introduce uncertainty. Let me give you 4 examples of this type of friction. There's a lot more. I'm going to give you 4. The first is a website may display beautiful portraits, but never clearly explain how someone begins working with the photographer. There has to be a CTA, a call to action. Those who visit your web page or your social media, whatever it is, they have to know what the next step is supposed to be. You have to tell them. That's what you have to communicate to them. If you don't, the visitor may wonder whether they should call, send an email, fill out a contact form, and then what? Don't just tell them to fill out the contact form. Tell them what happens next. Should they wait for the photographer to reach out? How long is that going to take? When the next step is unclear, many prospects simply move on. Second example, response time. When a potential client reaches out with interest and does not receive a reply within a short period of time, I mean, some hours, others give you a day or so. But if you haven't reached out in a short period of time, the excitement they felt when contacting you decreases. By the time the photographer responds, the emotional moment that motivated the inquiry may have already passed. You have to act quickly. The third of 4, pricing communication. Some photographers share pricing up front on their website, and that's fine for some. Others share pricing once you've contacted them. As a portrait photographer, you're likely creating a custom product, so it isn't necessary for prices to be on your website, but you should convey them. You should convey those prices as soon as possible. When information about pricing feels hidden or confusing, clients may assume the experience will be uncomfortable or certain or a shock. Clear communication or clear expectations allow people to feel relaxed about moving forward, while unclear expectations often cause hesitation. So even if you don't choose to include your pricing information on your website, tell them that you are going to share that information with them so they have a good idea of what they can expect during that call or during that if they send an email, whatever it is that your next step is, let them know what's going to happen and include, I'm going to tell you what the price is once I understand what it is that you want. By the way, my philosophy on that is it's kind of like going into a grocery store and saying, how much is a bag of groceries? Well, no one knows. They don't know what you're going to have in your bag in your bag. So therefore, we have to know what's in the bag before we can tell you how much the bag is going to cost. Same thing with custom portraiture. Unless you know what it is that they want, you haven't earned the right to give them a price. Now, if you're not doing custom portraiture, then maybe you do. So let's say you're doing mini sessions. Well, mini sessions should have a price set up front. People should know what they're getting into because each person's getting the same thing. Yeah, sure, the faces are different, but the background's the same. Everything's the same. By the way, mini sessions aren't single sessions that are short. Mini sessions are the same background, the same environment, one session after another. That's what a mini session is. Number 4 of 4. Scheduling could be another obstacle. If booking a photography session or a discovery session requires multiple emails or callbacks, uncertain availability, or complicated coordination, clients may feel, or at least begin to feel, that the process will require more effort than they expected. These obstacles really aren't dramatic. I may have shared them in a way that is, but none of these obstacles are dramatic. But together they interrupt momentum. Each moment of uncertainty gives the client a reason to pause, and pauses weaken the emotional energy that originally sparked the inquiry. The photographers who maintain momentum do a handful of things. They carefully think about removing these small barriers. They understand every step of the process should clearly guide the client toward the next step in the process. They're thinking about this from the prospect's point of view, starting from the experience the moment the interest appears, meaning before you ever have a chance to have anything to do with it. They're thinking about what's next. That's well before prospects have an opportunity to visit your online presence. It's when they're seeing your work on someone else's wall or when someone else is talking about it. That's when it starts. And you may think, I don't have anything to do with that part. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. I'm not going into that in this session, in this lesson, because I've gone over that in other Portrait Profit shows. By the way, this is episode number 263. So I've gone over quite a few things. That's one of the many things that we've gone over in the past. So I'm just touching on it. Hopefully you saw that episode. If not, well, go back and watch it. But make the next step obvious and comfortable. Contact information is easy to find. The response to an inquiry is welcoming and helpful. And each stage of communication gently leads the client towards the next step in the process. The process feels organized and reassuring, allowing the clients to relax and focus on the outcome that they want. All that other stuff is minutia to them. That's why you have to make it simple. When a client feels guided and confident in the process, they continue moving forward naturally. It just feels right. The decision no longer feels like something they've got to analyze or debate. Instead, it feels like a natural continuation of the interest and confidence that they already have developed. I mentioned simple. Simplicity protects momentum. When photographers remove unnecessary obstacles from the process, the confidence created by interest and clarity continues to grow. That steady movement is what ultimately leads the prospect to the point where decision making feels comfortable and obvious. And when the process has been intentional from the beginning, the final decision isn't difficult at all because it's exactly what they want. You see it? If you're getting this, tell me yes in the comments. Just say yes. Or click the like button or click the love button. Chapter 4. By the time a potential client reaches the decision to choose you, several important decisions or several important things have already happened. Interest that has been created by the result your photography produces. Clarity has allowed the client to understand what you create and why it matters. Simplicity has removed the obstacles that might have interrupted or slowed or paused the process. When those three elements work together, something important happens in the client's mind. The decision was easy, obvious, and exciting. The client already knows the result they want. They understand that you create portraits they admire. The process of working with you feels comfortable and straightforward. Instead of carefully analyzing whether they should move forward, they're simply eager to take the next step. This is why some photographers appear to book clients so easily. From the outside, it may look like luck or popularity, but what is really happening is much simpler. By the way, the graphic that's on the screen right now, just in case it's too small on your screen, says interest plus clarity plus simplicity equals easy yes. The photographer who's doing this well has created an environment where saying yes feels obvious. Think about this experience from the client's perspective. They may have seen portraits that inspire them. They clearly understand what the photographer creates. The path to begin working together feels simple, it feels welcoming. By the time they reach out, the client already feels confident on what's going to happen next. The photographer does nothing to convince someone to hire them. The client did all that on their own. I'm going to repeat that. The photographer does nothing to convince someone to hire them. If you've done things right, the client did that all on their own. Earlier in this lesson, I mentioned the motivation for me to write this episode was a realtor friend of mine who explained why some homes sell within days while others sit on the market for months. Most people assume the difference is price or location. And of course, those things matter. The homes that sell quickly are usually the ones that are made it easy for the buyer to say yes. The presentation is clear. The listing answers questions before they're asked. And the process of seeing the home and moving forward feels simple. When those elements are in place, buyers do not feel like they are making a difficult decision. They feel like they found the right home. Photography works the same way. When interest is created by the portraits you produce, when your message clearly communicates what the clients can expect, and when the process of working with you feels simple and welcoming, the decision becomes obvious. Interest begins the process. Clarity builds the confidence. Simplicity protects momentum. When those elements work together, saying yes is easy. If you take nothing else away from today's lesson, remember this. Clients don't begin by looking for a photographer. That's not how it begins. They begin by wanting the result that photography creates. Your job is not to convince people to hire you. Your job is to make the path from interest to decision clear and comfortable. When people see portraits that inspire them and they understand what you create and they feel confident in what's going to happen next, well, that's when something powerful occurs. The decision for them begins to feel obvious. That's when your photography business becomes easy to say yes to. So I want you to think about the way your photography is presented, the way your message communicates what you do, and the way your process guides people forward. Because every step should help the client move naturally from curiosity to confidence. Interest begins the process. Clarity builds confidence. Simplicity protects momentum. When these elements are working together, saying yes becomes easy. And when saying yes becomes easy, your business begins to grow in a way that feels natural, predictable, and sustainable. Hmm. Well, if you've enjoyed this episode, let me know by clicking the like button or clicking the love button. I want to tell you about the upcoming shows. As you know, the Portrait Profit Show is every single Monday, and I've already created the next few of the shows, and I want to tell you about them because, well, I think you're going to like them. So let's do that right now. Let's talk about the upcoming Portrait Profit shows. In 1 week from today, on March 30th at noon. In fact, let me put that up on the screen. There we go. March 30th at noon, when helping hurts your business. You'd think that helping would be helping. It would be good for everyone concerned. It isn't always. Most photographers don't realize this until it's already cost them money and stress. Photographers are generous people, generally speaking. We say yes because we want to help. We help friends, family, causes. We help when someone asks. But sometimes the very thing that feels helpful in the moment works against the business we're trying to build. That's in 1 week from today, March 30th at noon. And then in one week after that, so 2 weeks from today, April 6th at noon, the real reason photographers leave the profession. You know, when I graduated with a photography degree, there were 33 of us, all starting at the same time, getting out in the world. But within 5 years, I was the only one who hadn't changed professions. Too many photographers are going down good roads. They just aren't going in the right direction. I'm going to tell you how to spot the difference. 2 weeks from today, put it on your calendar. You've got a lot of things going on. If you don't put it on your calendar, you're likely to forget because you're busy, because you've got things going on, because you care about a lot of things. You've got a million things to deal with. Put this on your schedule and tell others about it. You know, Lens Legends, today we talked about something that shapes every photography business. Some photographers seem to attract lots of clients who move forward quickly and confidently, while others struggle to get noticed at all. You know, the difference usually isn't talent. It's not equipment. It's not even price. The difference is how easy the decision feels for the client. When people see portraits that spark interest, when they clearly understand what you create, and when the process of working with you feels simple and welcoming, the decision becomes obvious. And when the decision is obvious, saying yes becomes easy. That's what you want for your business. That's what makes your life easier, less stressful, what it's supposed to be. And yes, I can help you with that. That's what I do full time, is help photographers get to that point. In fact, if you'd like, I'll put this up one more time. Reach out to me. I don't even charge for this. It's a 15-minute session, private session with me, where we talk about you, your goals. I don't talk about the anything that I'm offering. Now, if you ask, I'm going to answer, but that's not the purpose of it. The purpose is to talk about you, where you want to go, what you're trying to accomplish. Maybe I can point you in the right direction, but you don't know unless you sign up. Use that URL that's on the screen right now. It says calendly.com, not calendar, calendly.com/photo school /15MIN. And that'll get you a 15-minute private session with both of us. I want to thank you, Lens Legends, for your time and attention here today. And I want to thank you for the hard work you put into building a photography business. It is hard work. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort, and you're putting in that effort. I look forward to seeing you next Monday. So for Landers Photography School and Digital Pro Lab, I'm Jim Landers. And this is the Portrait Profit Show. I look forward to watching you grow. You guys are amazing. Bye for now.